you're wondering, how much is my personal injury case worth? You're going to want to watch this video because I'm going to give you some insight to share exactly what makes a personal injury case valuable. Okay, you got to have three things if you've been injured and you're looking to get paid. The first thing you got to have is liability against someone. Okay, so usually that's established through negligence. Okay, someone has to owe you a duty and then they have to breach that duty. So if you're driving on the roadway and someone is behind you and they rear end you, well, they had a duty to keep a safe distance from you and to watch what was going on. And they breached that duty by not doing that. They hit you, they rammed into you, and they hurt you. So that's negligence, right? Now you have liability. That's the first thing you have to establish. There's things they could argue to try to get out of that. They could argue, well, I had a sudden seizure and it was an emergency. You would argue, well, you knew you were sick. You had seizures before. You shouldn't have been driving. Or they might say, well, I never had one before and there was never any indication that I was going to have that emergency. I didn't know. Maybe they get out of negligence. Maybe there's no liability. Okay? So you got to have liability. Usually that's established through negligence. There's other ways to establish liability in other contexts, such as workers' comp. You have to be injured in the course and scope of employment. There's other ways to establish liability, maybe through strict liability laws. If a dog bites you, your state might have strict liability. Okay, but the most common way is through negligence. So in order to have a good personal injury case, you got to have liability. The second thing you got to have is you got to have injuries. Okay, if someone rear ends you and you walk away from the collision and you go, well, I'm fine. They might have smashed your car in. The whole trunk might be smashed in. And I've seen this before. Bad accident on the freeway and the person walks away and they go, well, you breached a duty to me. You were negligent. You wrecked my car, but I didn't get injured. Or I'm only mildly traumatized. I was just kind of shooken up. I went to sleep and the next day I had a little headache. But other than that, never went to a doctor. No injuries. The second thing you have to have is injuries in order to have a good personal injury case. Okay, it's not a good thing to have injuries, but it makes your case good, right? Maybe if you have liability and you have injuries. And then the third thing you have to have is insurance. Okay, you could have good liability. In other words, you could have someone who clearly was negligent and hurt you, and you could clearly have been injured because you went to the hospital in an ambulance and you had all these diagnostic testing done and the doctor says, yeah, you're screwed up. You got broken bones and stuff. But if the person who caused your injuries has no insurance or any ability to pay you, then you don't have a good case. So the third thing that you need for a good personal injury case is enough insurance to pay for the injuries that the person is liable for causing to you. That's one, you got to have liability. Two, you got to have injuries. And three, you got to have insurance on the other side to pay you something. So if you have those three things, then you have a good personal injury case. I can't say you're better off for having those injuries because we don't know if the money's ever going to be worth it, but at least you have a good personal injury case. Now, if you found this video helpful in any way, please like it, share it with friends and family if you think they need to know this information, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to check out the videos that pop up right here on the screen. That's a playlist. It's the Auto Accident Playbook. Watch that playlist. Understand everything that I have to say in those videos. It's going to give you a better idea about what your case is worth.